had an opportunity on Wednesday gliding into the Fort Worth Intermodal Transportation Center to see this rather unusual rail vehicle. We're going to get a little explanation on how everything came together and what caused it to be as popular as it is, because I understand that since opening up just less than 2 weeks ago, over 55,000 riders have been on Trinity Metro's new TEXRail, and that's running between downtown Fort Worth and DFW Airport. Well, today we have Richey Thompson, who's the chief engineer of TEXRail here, to tell us how this whole thing was put together.
Dive into this right quick. Can I control this, or big button? Okay. All right. Here's basically a new year, a new beginning. This was basically our golden ticket ride, which we held on December 31st. We had a big celebration at DFW North Airport. There were over roughly 500 people attended the event. And this was basically, we began operation January 10th, and this was the first train arriving or leaving DFW Airport Terminal B. I would like to point out that DFW Airport was actually, they constructed Terminal B station themselves, and they did an excellent job. It basically mirrors the Terminal A station at DFW Airport. TEXRail, this is basically our opening service. You can see the number of people standing on our platform. Like was mentioned, our ridership has been really great. We're really excited about the number of people coming out and taking advantage of TEXRail. As was mentioned, we're our first 13 days, we've had roughly 57,000 people ride the train itself. All kinds of good feedback from the public overall on our ridership and our service we're providing. TEXRail, okay, it brings a new premium transportation option to North Texas. But today I'd like to focus on how we got here. And I'd like to first give thanks to all of our overall team and our stakeholders that were involved in this project. I'd like to start with our federal partners, which are FTA, FRA, and the FAA. We had a program management consulting on our job that helped us oversee our program, and that was led by CH2M and Jacobs Engineering. The design was done by Parsons Trans Systems and Urban Engineers on TEXRail proper, and Hewlett Zollers did the design of our maintenance facility. Construction, Archer Western Herzog was a joint venture that did the majority of the TEXRail construction. They're sitting back there. I'd like to recognize them. They did a great job delivering our project. And then we had Imperial Construction build our maintenance facility. Stakeholders and project partners for the railroads, we had a lot of interaction with Union Pacific Railroad and BNSF. We also had a lot of partnership with TRE in downtown Fort Worth and Western Railroad on the Cotton Belt, Amtrak in downtown Fort Worth as well, and the Grapevine Vintage Railroad, and great contributed to our overall success. I'd also like to thank the City of Fort Worth, Tarrant County, North Richland Hills, Grapevine, TxDOT, DFW Airport, the Tarrant Regional Water District, and the Army Corps of Engineers. Additional thanks goes to Haltom City, Colleyville, Hearst, Watauga, and South Lake for their support in getting our construction completed. Since we're a little short on time today, I would like to focus on our major engineering and construction challenges to achieve our overall goal. It's mainly known as the hole in the wall, and we'll walk through, I'll also walk through our route and fare information, and then I'll open it up for questions. Hole in the wall. The hole in the wall itself is, it just sits just east of downtown Fort Worth. It consists of a 3-level interchange with the TRE and UP Duncan tracks on the lower level. And then we have the UP Choctaw, which is basically a 4-track structure on the second level, which is basically it's operated by UP, but it's shared with BNSF on top. And then we have the third level, which is a main feeder to downtown Fort Worth. This picture is early on in our project before we really got started construction. You can see we're removing a billboard. That was early on in our project, but this basically illustrates, in my opinion, the complexities we faced on the TEXRail project. Our main objective was to build a second track on the lower level for TEXRail. So it involved major modifications to this hole-in-the-wall itself. And although our whole project was roughly 27 miles and it was a major construction project, this hole-in-the-wall could have been a major construction project all by itself. It basically has 5 different, basically mini projects to get it done. These 5 projects included, we needed to construct a track temporary shoe fly bridge, because our negotiations with the railroads on the top, we had to maintain 4 tracks in service during all times of construction. So we had to build 2 temporary tracks to shift tracks over while we reconstructed the bridges. Also, we had to rebuild the 4 track bridges on top. 2 are BNSF bridges and 2 are UP bridges. And then we had to replace a Spur 280 bent cap, or a whole bent, actually. We had to replace a whole bent. And then we had to realign the TRE and UP Duncan tracks below to accommodate our TEXRail alignment. We'll get into just the 2 temp shoe flat construction. It was basically 2 single track bridge structures that were mainly precast double box beam construction. It was roughly 168 linear feet in length, and it was built to the western adjacent span under 280 is where that was constructed. And basically, the plan was to build the temp shoe fly and shift the BNSF tracks onto the temp shoe fly when we moved to build the permanent BNSF structures. And here's basically the elevation view of the temp shoe fly as well. You can see how we straddle the TRE and Duncan tracks down below. This is one thing, probably if I could go back early in design, I would have looked at making the temp shoe fly wider on the bottom to accommodate our TEXRail construction. That way we could have basically attacked upper and lower at the same time and helped accelerate construction. But we were locked in to where we had to get the permanent bridges built before we could attack the lower level. And then another big thing that was the bridge launches themselves, the permanent bridges for BN and UP. It was early, probably in the summer, this last summer, and we were really struggling at the hole-in-the-wall, and I didn't know how we were going to get it done. So I have to give credit to Archer Western Herzog and Glenn Larson particularly, because he came up with an idea to where we could build our bridges just off-site nearby and then launch them into place. And so we were limited on outages we were allowed, so we were basically, our original plan was to stick build these structures in place, but to do that we would have had to have outages, we would have had a tracking time, and we would I don't know how we would have got it done. So ultimately we made the decision to launch the bridges, so we built them off-site and then prepared to launch them. The actual bridge launches themselves were done in 2 separate weekends, and it was under a 36-hour curfew. So basically 36 hours each bridge launch occurred. Here's just some pictures of, this was another major time saver for us. We worked out an agreement with UP to get a design, or basically a variance on their standard horizontal clearance. They allowed us to basically be within 8'6" of their center line of track, and this is our installation of our temp shoring to basically excavate out for the abutments and the approach slabs for the new permanent bridges. And Hayward Baker with AWH developed a micropile design. We basically installed roughly, I think, 30 micropiles, which are just small diameter, fully encased concrete piles on both sides of the hole-in-the-wall to basically form up our temp shoring protection there. And then, so once we got our temp shoring in place, we figure it out, and this is just, basically this is a picture of the UP north abutment being poured in place. And you can see traffic is going right by while we're doing the work. To launch the bridges, we brought in, I think AWH brought in Buckhalter as a specialty firm to launch the bridges. We basically did a runway girder system to span the hull, and then they basically had an SPMT, which is a special mobile unit that could lift the bridge up and roll it into place over the hull itself. Here it's being basically picked up and brought over the hull. And they had gantry systems down on the lower level. We had 4 gantry systems. We had 2 internal to hold up the runway girders and 2 outside to basically, once the bridge was located in place, it would pick the bridge up off the SPMT, and then everything could be pulled out, the runway girders could be pulled out, and then it was dropped into place. Here's just another picture of it coming into place. And I also should mention with Spur 280 on top of us, we had very limited vertical clearances, so that even made construction more complicated. Again, it's getting brought into place. I want to talk a little bit about how they basically made sure they had the bridge located correctly before we lifted it off the SPMT. Basically, we had 4 lasers on every corner of the bridge, and they had it surveyed in on the abutment itself. So we shot a laser dot down on the abutments themselves, and had to line up, and then we were ready to pick it up off the SMPT to lower it down. And here it's basically being picked up. The SPMT is rolling out, and we would pull the gantry system out and lower it into place. There you can see the gantry system is basically gone, or the runway girder system is gone, so it's being ready to be lowered and down. And basically that's the finished product of the 2 track bridges basically installed. And there's the 4 tracks newly constructed on top of the hole in the wall. Then we get to Spur 280, the vent replacement itself. And I got to give AWH credit again here, because when we were doing this work, it was during when we had a lot of rain in the area, but they continued to work through it and push to get it done. We were also up against, we were doing this work under an outage right before the fair traffic started on TRE. So we were basically confined because we could not shut down TRE during the fair traffic. So we were up against the wall to get it done, and AWH did deliver overall. Here we used temporary shoring, basically towers, and a temporary bent to basically put next to the existing bent cap. We jacked up 280 to where we could remove the existing bent cap and then undercut the existing columns to where it could fit on new columns we poured outside to make it wide enough to accommodate the TEXRail alignment. Here's the new bent cap being delivered. It came in via the shoe fly track that we built. Here it is being just pulled into place. There it's being installed. And there's basically the hole in the wall with the bridge complete and the TEXRail track constructed. I don't know if I can look at this video, but I'd encourage y'all, if y'all can get to YouTube, look up, I think it's Rico Suave, our track basically superintendent with AWH, basically videoed and cataloged our whole construction project. So we've got 25 different videos that if you want to watch, you can see basically, that's all right. Oh, there you go. This is basically covering the BNSF. obviously our high clearances we had to work with. Yeah. Major difference. See our new column up. Existing column. New cap is going in. I should mention our cap replacement. We were working with TXRail. Originally, we were estimating this concept that really we got it done in 2 weeks. So it was only estimating. All right, we'll just go through a couple of other photos we have of our new TEXRail route. This is the existing Lancaster Bridge, which TRE operates. This is where we're sharing operations with TRE right in downtown Fort Worth. This is our new Peach Yard structure. It's roughly this is a new structure that flies over Peach Yard, and then it also flies over the UP Duncan Main Line's Peach Yard, and then the UP Choctaw Sub. This structure is like 4,200 linear feet in length. Very long. This is our longest structure we have on TEXRail. This is the Trinity River structure. Again, it's a new crossing over the Trinity River. We worked with the U.S. Corps of Engineers and TRWD for this crossing. It's roughly 1,875 linear feet in length. And then this is a picture of our north side station. It's basically a destination station in our opinion because it's adjacent to Fort Worth Stockyards. So you can ride TEXRail and get a shuttle, basically ride a bus to the Stockyards. This is our Hodge Yard Bridge, which we did another great separation over the UP-owned Hodge Yard, which is leased to Fort Worth and Western. So we basically flew over, there's a Y that leads into the yard, we flew over the leg of the Y, and then drive down to get under 35W. And you can see 35W above us there. This is Big Fossil Creek structure. We basically rebuilt this structure in place. We've got a 6-day outage on the Cotton Belt working with the Grapevine Vintage and Fort Worth and Western Railroad. We implemented, or AWH implemented a pretty unique construction concept here where we overbuilt the bent caps there on the long steel spans to where that span itself could be built to the side in place and then slid into location once we've got the outage. So that basically accelerated to where we could get it done during our outage. And here's another major structure we have. It's our crossing leading into DFW Airport. It's crossing 114. It's roughly a 1,580 linear foot bridge. It's got 18 spans, 16 of them being concrete span, and then the 2 steel plate girder spans. And then this is basically heading into Terminal B. This is coming into another area we call the Big Cut. We roughly had to remove 400,000 cubic yards of dirt at the airport to basically accommodate our alignment. As we come up next to ASR 9, you can see it in the background there, the radar tower at the airport. Okay, a little bit about our route and information. As you can see, our corridor is roughly 27 miles long. We have 9 stations. We have 4 in Fort Worth. The 2 in downtown are shared with TRE. That's being the TMP and the ITC station. Then we have the Northside station, which is basically a direct connection to the Stockyards itself. And then we have Mercantile Center station. Then we have 2 stations in North Richland Hills, being Iron Horse station, which is near 820, and then the Smithville station. Then you go to Grapevine, we have Main Street Station, which I don't know if y'all been to it, but Grapevine has a massive development going on there where they're building basically a parking garage, a hotel, and a depot south of our station area there. It's currently under construction, but it's soon to be completed. Then we head into the airport, we have the DFW North Station, and then we end up terminating at Terminal B Station, which again was constructed by the airport themselves. Designed and constructed. Our schedule, we operate 7 days a week. Our first train basically arrives at TMP at 3:30 a.m. Our last train finishes after 1 a.m. And if you would like our full schedule, please go to our website, ridetrinity.org/mytexrail. And then here's our fare structures. Right now, we're currently offering free rides, free fares through the end of the month. So I encourage everyone here, if you haven't ridden our service, please get out and give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. And then we plan to begin charging fares February 1st. Our fare structure, to me, is very reasonable. It's basically $5 or, there we go. We got regular fares are $5. $5 day passes or $2.50 for one-way TEXRail, and then we have reduced local fares as well. And then I'll open it up to any questions. Yes, sir. Our total program budget was $1 billion and $34 million. $1,034 million. But that's program, that's vehicles, everything. So. No, that's basically just south of the Cotton Belt Railroad. We've been off the Cotton Belt in Greenfield, and it's basically off of Dallas Road and Texan Trail. I don't know if you're familiar with that. but it was basically an undeveloped land on DFW Airport property. Yes, we have 335 spaces there. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're looking at possibly doing that April, May timeframe. No, basically we have 6 of our vehicles delivered on project right now. We have ordered 8, so we need all 8 to basically implement the 30-minute peak period operations. We're at, okay, yes, sir. I think we just jacked it up about 1.25 inches. Is it? Not much. I was concerned the deck was going to crack, but it did not. So I was really concerned we were going to have to replace the whole deck, but that didn't happen. Yes, sir. I think initial planning started in 2006, roughly. Maybe earlier than that, but I got involved with TEXRail in 2007, so I can't really speak before that timeline. Yes, sir. Currently, we would have to increase our headways to accommodate that. Yes, sir. Well, we do not intermingle with UP at all on our TEXRail corridor. Huh? While construction? No, basically we followed all the standards and there was no hiccups with our construction as far as, yeah. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank y'all.